As believers, we cannot be cursed. We'll get right into the video right after this intro. When God gives you that peace, you will rest in His security, His protection, His comfort, His love. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Balaamism. Balaamism being a false doctrine and a false teaching. We're going to dive into it and we're going to see what Balaamism actually does. Balaamism is, like I said, a false doctrine and a false teaching that most people in Christianity don't really know much about, but we're going to dive into it and we're going to look deep inside of it and see what it does. And what Balaamism did was they attempted to try to curse believers, and because they were blessed, and because they got their strength from God, that they knew that it was not working. So they actually tried to get them to sin rather than get them to turn away. So we're going to see how the devil works and how his principalities work and how they did work back then. And even to this day, that it still happens to this day. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So we know that in order to, the first thing that we need to understand, the first thing that we need to know is what are the blessings that we have. When we know that we are blessed and we know where we get our strength from, we must know that we're going to get our strength and that we are blessed. And how is the best way to know that we are blessed? And what are the blessings that we dive into? Well, we're going to turn over to Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. So starting at verse 3, we see God blesses those who are poor spiritually, and realize their need for Him spiritually. For the kingdom of heaven is there. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted spiritually. God blesses those who are humble, their spirit being humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, which means God, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Verse 11, God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sort of evil things against you, because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. See, when you are blessed and you have received these blessings, when you know that you are blessed, there's nothing that could come between you. There's nothing that can happen. There's nothing that can penetrate you. No curse, no evilness. You will get attacks, but they won't be able to penetrate you. They won't be able to take over you. They won't be able to possess you. They will always be interference. See, Balaam doctrine is when the devil and his principalities can't curse the believer who is blessed. No witch can cook up a magic potion. No warlock can control your mind. No voodoo man can't put a thorn in your side. He can't curse you, because the reason why, you are blessed. You know whom you are. You know who you believe in. You know whose strength that you rely on. However, there is one way that the devil can get you to be under a curse. He knows that you are blessed and he knows that he cannot touch you. But what he can do is to get you to curse yourself, to follow along with him and to curse yourself. If he can get you away from that area, he can get you to curse yourself. We see that in Revelations chapter 2, verses 14 to 15. Let's go over there now. In Revelation chapter 2, verse 14 to 15, it reads, "But I have a few complaints against you. You tolerated some among you whose teaching is like that of Balaam, who showed Balak how to trip up the people of Israel. He taught them to sin by eating food offered to idols and by committing sexual sin. In a similar way, you have some Nicolaitans among you who follow the same teaching. That is God's holy word. What we see here, what we begin to break down here, and what this verse is actually talking about is the church was guilty of false doctrine. They had a huge worldliness in their church. There were two charges against the worldly church. The worldly church is guilty of a doctrine called Balaam. What is Balaam? Balaam means that a corrupt and worldliness are within the church itself. It means a mixture of religion and worldliness that's unimaginable to a very high degree. See, Balak and Moab, the Moabites king, reigning adjacent to the Palestine who feared Israel. We're studying that in our study group in 1 Samuel. Now, what we see that Balak and the Moabites king did to protect his kingdom, he sought the service of Balaam. Balaam is a prophet. He was sought out to curse the Israelites. When the king first approached Balaam, Balaam refused at first though, but he accepted on the second offer. 3 times Balaam attempted to curse the Israel, but with no result at all. He then conceived a insidious plan that he would corrupt them. He suggested the Moabites girls seduce the Israel's men to intermarry and lead them to worship their idolatrous god. We see those in Numbers chapter 22 to chapter 25 and 31 to 16. We see this. Well, the scheme actually worked, and Israel, though rooted in God, became unequally yoked together with worldliness and was thereby corrupted. Apparently, what had happened in the Pergamus church was this: the church had baptized some person who had never repented or forsaken the ways of the world, had allowed some of the worldly to teach in the church, had allowed the mixed membership of believers and unbelievers. Some were leaving separate lives of holiness and sacrificial commitment for the cause of Christ, and others were living worldly lives seeking the pleasure and possessions of this world. The results were tragic. There were those within the church committing fornication, that is, all kinds of sexual sin. There were those participating in drunken parties of the world, even to the point of participating in feasts of idolatry worship. See, what the devil will get you to do is that he knows that he cannot touch you because you're blessed. But if he can get you to come over to his side, and he can get you to come over to, he can incrementally get you to come over to his land. If he can get you in front of the sins that you fall, those strongholds that lie within you, he can actually get you to curse yourself. Because any other way, a blessed believer cannot be cursed. So all they can do is get you to come on their side so you can curse yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. God bless you, and God bless your family.